Hello, my name is Darlene Sheridan. I'm the Executive Director of the Midway Community Resource Center. I just want to thank you for coming to the Emotional Wellness and Health Seminar. We look forward to the wonderful things that we will learn about others and even ourselves. Sit back, take notes, enjoy, be ready to make a difference in the world. Thank you for coming, and I look forward to taking this journey with you as well.
department, but showed them a different way about how Christ CIT. Go Bears in 6 weeks. So bad. So bad. That's been my educational journey, and I'm very, very proud of that as well. Also, I work with the U.S. Attorney Office of Northern District. They also, we work with the individuals, the youth that have gang ties and gun charges. We help individuals try to bring them to transition them back into the community, teaching them about mental health. My new beginnings. When you have a life sentence, you're on parole for the rest of your life. The parole board in 2022 converted my life sentence. I no longer have a life sentence no more, and all my rights were restored. What do they mean? That means that I voted for the first time in 2022.
Yeah.
I just voted. I'm the first individual that it's away from systems. Yes, systems are there to help, but it's gonna take us as a community to help. So within that, within closing, this is my contact information. If the individual wanted to contact me to just talk and discuss some things, I'd be happy to discuss. But I just wanted to really to thank y'all for just listening briefly to my story, and just I'm here to help. I'm here to be a resource, and I'm here to support. Thank you.
Amen.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions for Baji? What would you like to know?
Yes. So you said your program pretty much starts East Coast, but you say you're going to head to the West Coast as well.
Well, that's my Braille company. But as far as what we do with the forensic peer mentor is here to the state.
Only to the state of Georgia?
Yeah. We have similar programs across the state, but they are not named like forensic peer mentors. Any more questions?
Any other questions?
Yes, ma'am.
I think that you provide here system.
Returning system.
What we do, we train individuals that have been through the criminal justice system themselves and teach them to become peer support to individuals that have lived experience as well. But you have to think about it. If I've been through what you've been through, you'll listen to me a little bit more because at most when people come out of criminal justice system, I have mental challenges. First thing they say, you can't do this, you can't do that. But if you're looking at a person and hey, I've been where you've been at, I've been in those same burnt out neighborhoods, I've been in those same bridges that you used to sleep up on, and look at me now, that gives the individual hope. And that's just a kind of peer support.
So, if I heard you correctly, you said that peer support is a full-time job.
Yes,
You were referring to you, or you were referring to the other peer people that participate in the program?
Well, my department funds over 56 positions. So all the positions are paid for forensic peer mentoring. And that's forensic peer mentoring. When you talk about the certified peer specialists around, they also get paid like the CAD. I mean, Douglas County CSB, they have certified peer specialists here.
So you employ people who've been incarcerated. You train them to be peer
Forensic peer mentors.
Any other questions?
What exactly do they do from this to the beginning?
Yeah, because I'm not sure.
But forensic peer mentor? Oh, so basically forensic peer mentor is just help individuals from the justice system. Either have a mental health challenge, substance
incarcerated, qualifying this particular individual for these mental health challenges, or not?
Well, forensic peer mentor, they have to have lived experience. They have to been through the criminal justice system. They've been to jail, they've been to prison, they've been at the police star. They had to touch the criminal justice system somehow. So that what qualifies them to become a forensic peer mentor. They also have to have lived experience with either mental health or substance use. And then they have to get a certified peer specialist certification first, and then they get their forensic peer mentor.
I understand who are doing the peer mentoring. I'm talking about the people who they are mentoring too. So, just anyone who's in prison?
Yes, that's what qualifies. That's who we work with everybody that's in the criminal justice system. No matter if they're jail, they're in low probation, they're in community, they're in psychiatric hospitals.
And logic is for the field people. These are peers who are interested in working with individuals who have mental health issues. You already identified many skills that support it. The first one that you said is listening. Can you just elaborate on why listening to a story is so important and the impact of listening? And also particularly, what if they're saying things that we don't agree with? What if they're using profanity? We're listening, how do we do that?
Well, we understand when we see somebody, we want to just help them. We think that, we got some letters behind our names or we think we know more than them. But I'm here to tell you that I think each individual know what they need. And sometimes their needs are not like our needs. And just like Charlene said, they might be cussing, they might be doing things that we don't, but at the times we just have to listen to them. Because I remember I was doing a lecture over there at Georgia State just 2 days ago, and it was a homeless lady that was in there. And all the security guards were just screaming and just saying, "Lady, you ain't supposed to be in here." Sat down, I seen the situation, all I did was sat down and listen to her. And you know what? All she wants to do is use the bathroom. That's all she want to do. And when she went to go use the bathroom, she calmed down. And then after that, she said, "I need help." So they trying to lock her up. But I'm just glad we was there. The first thing that lady kept telling us was, "Thank you for listening to me." That's the power of listening. Just listen to individuals. Just allow them, because best believe they can tell you, regardless if they're in their particular manic state. Sometimes people just look at all they hear when they go into the systems or people on the street is people telling them what they need. And sometimes we just got to just listen to them. Just listen. Just kind of bring it down, even though we don't agree. I'll tell you just another story real quick. There was a guy I was working with that said that he want to own his first strip club. He want to be the first person on the strip. I don't agree with strip club. Okay, how that looks, right? You got to know about business. You got to know about all kind of stuff. Guess what? After he started learning stuff, he ended up doing something else. But it wasn't for me to sit up there and say, "Man, I don't agree with that." We have to take ourselves out of the equation. We always got to take our feelings, our emotions, our way of thinking, regardless of we feel that the individual, that you are on the wrong path. We just got to listen to them. I always tell people, I try to work myself out of the job. I always first thing I try to do when I'm working with a peer is access resources when it is crisis. But best believe crisis ain't doing no 9 to 5. Yeah. So if you 3 o'clock crisis, most likely you trying to call me, you're not gonna get me. I am asleep. My phone is on silent. So what's the peer gonna do? So if they know how to access resources when you do fall into crisis, then they kind of understand it. For us, just to try to educate, just listen and educate the individual on how to get access to resources, and then they will tap into the resources.
I'm sorry, I was just going to say quickly that approximately how many individuals have mental health issues or substance use issues that are incarcerated, and what do you see? What are the most common illnesses?
Well, for the most part, it's between 7 and 80% of individuals that's incarcerated either have a mental health challenge or substance use. It just depends. Like when they're county jail, they have the majority of their population have a mental health challenge. That's the majority of them. And I ain't talking about 50%. I'm talking about almost 95% of individuals that have. Because unfortunately, our prisons, jails are the biggest mental health providers in the United States. If you just think about it, a lot of people do not get services until they go to jail. They get health services, yet they're not accessing service within the community. And this is what we're seeing, and we're trying to turn the tide of just how individuals are entering the system and trying to have, like we have a jail in reach project where we call familiar faces, where individuals, they just keep cycling out of jail. They're not really breaking the law too tough, breaking them, but they're not doing nothing real harm. They just coming due to their mental health challenges. So we're trying to just stop that and try to get them into services so they're not coming back. And a lot of our jail in reach, we have something with the youth because I'm trying to learn. Okay, that's stop. Even youth coming to prison, and most of the time it's the families. Then we work with the families because families don't understand. All families do is get the stigma. They don't want, how we grew up. What stays in our house? Where I grew up, right? What goes in our house stays in our house. You know what I'm saying? Y'all get amen on that, right? So the thing about it is that can really hurt because people don't really know how to access services. So these are some of the things that we definitely seeing a very uptick within mental health and substance use. Yes, now the conversation is being talked about. Yes, we're talking about it. Yes, we're making strides. But I think as a community, this is why this training is going to be very important where y'all can type and get involved and have the tools necessary to not only aid in the family, but aid the next door neighbor.
That was a good question.
Is, if someone wants to be a part of help, how do you come for training that we have for maybe a few months or what? How do you go about that?
Well, if you have lived experience, we have certified peer specialists that don't happen in the jail. They have individuals that have lived experience, they become a certified peer specialist. Or if an individual, have lived experience with substance use, or if you're just a concerned individual, this is what this training is just about to get connected. Not only after you get through this service, Charlene will give you a lot of resources where you can be able to learn how to help. Even right here at Douglas County CSB, this is one of our mental health providers in this particular region here. So the thing about it is, if Charlene will have resources to help, and the CAS CSB, all you have to do is come up and say, hey, because they have groups, they have a lot of stuff going on that you can just see how us in the community, because we have to get the community more involved.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
Charlene, Pastor Barbara, do you have any questions about how a church should view individuals who have a history of incarceration and also dealing with mental health challenges?
Well, Darlene can tell you about something we are attempting to do. It was one of the projects we're attempting to do.
Good afternoon, everybody. And it's good to see you again. I follow this man, and he's awesome. But I want to say, we are privileged to be one of the 4 providers that go into the Douglas County jail system. So there's a re-entry program going on there right now. And part of we handle spiritual enrichment and life skills. The CSB sends this building here, sends somebody over for mental health. There's another group that's Never Alone Clubhouse. They deal with addiction, and then we have some other counselors who go into the jail. And you will find out, at least my experience has been, there's so many people who are incarcerated who end up raising themselves. For one reason or another, they were neglected, their parents had issues, and they find themselves making unwise decisions because of a lot of different factors. So we all probably have the same kind of issues, but some people, the decisions have caused them to become incarcerated and sometimes caught up in the system. So what we're working as a station of hope, if you notice, we have a seal on our door that we got from the governor when Governor Deal was in office. So we're the station of hope for Douglas County, and what that basically means that we are returning citizens friendly. With that, we are presently working on what are we going to do. We have our education buildings for those going to Jerusalem that we want to utilize for support groups, maybe DIY, and some other things. So we have met with different people in the community to put our different strengths together to come up with at least 2 or 3 different programs that we can start initiating. We hope by the end of this year. We did get some funding from that, from North American Division, and we're just working to find out what we can do well for our particular area that we're in. So we already have a relationship with community supervision, which is the probation department, and we have been working with the court systems because they have some programs that you go through their 18-month program, your records can be dropped. So we're really involved in our community. And I'll put a plea out there. I'm always looking for more men to be involved. But we're doing a lot, and you're welcome to call in and want to be involved.
Might I say this, that is, I wanted to take a picture of this gentleman today. This gentleman is returning. He's being mentored. He was at church today with us. I wish you could have seen the way he was dressed. I am so proud of him. He brought his children with him to church, and you don't have to beg him to come. He's glad to be there. I think being friendly to people and let them know we care is where this is all about, folks. And that's why this training is important, so that we know how to care for people in the proper way and understand where they are and let them know we're there for them. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Can we give Laji
You can text someone and let them know that we're on YouTube, and this is being broadcasted live on YouTube. Okay. And it's New Jerusalem. Go to YouTube and go to the New Jerusalem channel, and you will see, and then populate New Jerusalem, and you'll see the flyer on there, and then once you see the flyer, you'll be able to.
So while Laji is getting disconnected, I want to remind you, please, look at your flyer. On the back of the flyer, you'll see a QR code. Please use that QR code to register, because with this training, there are educational materials, and we will use your email address to send you those educational materials, okay? Does anyone have any questions about that?
Someone asked if we have any more flyers.
We don't. Can I see a show of hands for those individuals who need a flyer? Okay. So maybe about 2 or 3 people who don't have
We'll have some more meetings.
And I'm going to ask those 2 or 3 who don't have a flyer. Right here we see Lauren has a couple.
Right here. Raise your hand if you didn't get it.
Okay.
Do we enter for the ticket?
Excellent question. Someone asked, why is the QR code important? What are we doing with the QR code? With the QR code, you're registering for this class, for this training. You're giving us information, okay? And particularly, of course, your name and your email address is the primary information. We need that so that we can send you the link to the educational materials. Does that make sense? Is that okay? And the reason why it's important for you to enter it yourself is because sometimes we have what? Creative handwriting. And so we're trying to figure out, is this a Q or is this a G? Okay? We want to make sure that we have your email correct so that you can get so that you can get your education materials. Okay? So moving forward with the training, can someone give me the time? 4:05. 4:05. What should we be doing at 4:05? What does the agenda say? I want to make sure. It's okay. So I am going to give you the information from the intro, and I'll speed it up. You heard the powerful story of Laji. He was very vulnerable. He was very transparent. What did you learn from Laji's story? You learned about what? Mental health? That is a factor in what? How people function in life. Untreated mental illness can impact how people function in life. Approximately what percentage of the population is incarcerated? From what Laji said, from 70 to 95%, depending upon the facility. And sometimes individuals, they were not committing major crimes. They were what? Acting out because of what? Untreated mental illness, right? Untreated mental illness can also impact individuals in other ways. They may not end up incarcerated, but it has an impact on the family. It certainly impacts that individual. So what you will be learning in this class is, we're going to talk about the history, some of the history of mental illness in this country. Then we will move into some of the common diagnoses. Remember, I asked Laji, what do you see in prison? Okay? Mental illness and substance use disorder. What types of mental illness? What are the symptoms of mental illness? That's so important. Not so that you can diagnose people, but so that when you see a particular symptom, you have an idea of the diagnosis that may be associated with it, so that you can refer that individual to a professional And so that you also have insight on how to help them, on how to support them, on how to effectively listen, what's important to say, what's important not to say, okay? So you're gonna get a lot of information. You may hear terminology, you may hear words that you haven't heard before, and that's okay. You know why that's okay? Because the scripture says that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. And science says that the human brain is the most complex object in the universe. Now, if we know that we are creators, that God created us, right? He said that we're fearfully, wonderfully made. Shouldn't we know what that means? What does that mean? Should we know how our brain functions? Are we going to leave the knowledge of God about us to people who don't even appreciate or know God? Should we not have the best knowledge? Yes. So when you hear words that you may not have heard before, that you don't understand, raise your hand. Make sure you're reading your materials, because this is important. And one of the things that Logi said, it's up to the community to make a difference. Who's going to care about us? Who's going to care about our communities better than the church? Is anybody going to care about our communities better than the church? Can anybody think of a scripture that would support us serving in this way? Do you think that Jesus would want us to be concerned about those individuals with mental health issues? Oh, shoot, we're our brother's keeper. What else?
He said, when I was naked, you clothed me. When I was hungry, you fed me.
When I was in prison?
You visited me.
Yes. Yeah. So this is important. We need this information. So make sure you get us your email so that you can get the materials and read the materials. And also you'll have a link to the slides that I'm having today. Pastor Barbara, somewhere along the way, I may have done something up here. While Pastor Barbara is doing that, what do you guys really think? This training,
this QR code? Stop. Don't scan
I
this
say
QR
that
code.
in
You're
this
gonna get.
training, this is about real life, okay? You heard a real life story, right? You heard a man who had a life sentence. But you also saw what and heard what? Transformation. But we can't get to transformation until we're honest about what the need is. And I think with Logi sharing his story, he was very honest. He was very vulnerable. Is somebody willing to share how they think about people with mental illness? When you hear the word mental illness, what do you think? What comes to mind? Crazy. What does crazy look like?
Out of control.
Out of control. Just crazy and out of control. Someone else had a hand up back there. What do you think about when you hear mental illness? We just being honest. This is real. Crazy. Okay. Crazy. Out of control. What else?
It's an imbalance.
An imbalance. Yes.
Somebody to care to them.
Okay. Okay. Has anyone heard of depression?
Yes.
Is depression a mental illness?
Yes.
Okay. Has anybody in the room ever been depressed?
Yes.
Okay. Does that make you crazy?
No.
Does it make you out of control?
No.
Okay. Has anyone ever heard of anxiety?
Yes.
Has anyone in this room ever experienced anxiety?
Yes.
Does that make you crazy?
No.
Does that make you out of control? So that right here, we're beginning to transform. Because we have been conditioned within society to think of people with mental illness in a certain way. And I appreciate the honesty in the room. The first thing somebody said was crazy. I want you to know today that there is no scientific meaning for the word crazy. We use it, but when I make a diagnosis, I do not write down crazy. Okay? It has no scientific meaning. Out of control. What does that look like? What does out of control look like? Can anyone share?
Sometimes hostility.
Hostility, thank you. Anger, rage. There's certain diagnoses where there's permanent, but has anybody been angry in the room? Has anybody ever been enraged? Has anybody ever yelled? And Pastor Robert's not listening. Has anybody ever used profanity? So what mental illness is like on a continuum. When I began to share with you the symptoms, you're going to say, I've experienced some of that. Not all of the symptoms, but when we make a diagnosis, it's because the symptoms have gotten to the point where they're interfering with the individual's ability to function optimally in everyday life. Most of the symptoms that I talk about, you probably know someone who has experienced them or you're experiencing them yourself. And so we just have to think differently about this term, mental illness. And I mean, not just us in this room, but as a society, as a country, as a world. Because we do think of it in the way that you all said, crazy, out of control, hostile, unstable, violent, need to be in a hospitalized, need to be in an institution. But it's actually a continuum. And I'm talking, Pastor Barbara, because you think we almost there? All right. Okay, one of the things that we're going to talk about in the slides is about the history of psychiatry. Hi, how are you? Mr. Fields, awesome. Can you just come up and say a few words, particularly, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but you speak all the time. God is just blessing us to have, let me say something. To have Logie Ruffin in this room is powerful. Logie is the director, and you can see what he is. He took time out of his day to be here because what? He cares. And there are people in this room who know Logie. There's people in this room who picked up the phone and called Logie, and Logie acts. He's not just a speaker, he acts. We have another powerful person in the room, Mr. Wendell Fields. Mr. Fields is with the Behavioral Health Wing. The Behavioral Health Wing is responsible for crisis response within the state of Georgia. So when there is a crisis, Mr. Fields is part of the department of individuals who show up. You know why Mr. Fields is here today? I didn't even know he was coming. Because he's passionate. Don't take this for granted, guys. We're trying to bring you the very best within the field of mental health in the state of Georgia. He's here because he's compassionate for our community. He wants to see us healthy. Logie wants to see us healthy. Wendell wants to see us healthy and whole. So they're coming to share with you information, resources that are available. From Logie, you learned about what? Forensics peer specialist. Who knew about that before you heard of Logie? Did you know that individuals who were incarcerated had a mental health diagnosis or substance use diagnosis could be trained? Did you know that? As certified peer specialists and could have a job? He said, how many did he say in the state of Georgia?
He said he offers 56 jobs.
Yes. But there are more. He offers 56 jobs. But he said that there were over 1,000 certified peer specialists trained. And within Mr. Fields' department, They're also certified peer specialists. So since he's right here, I'm going to shut up and let him tell you about what he does. And I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I know you how passionate you are and that you're always ready.
Oh.
Okay.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. How many people doing great, spectacular, just yippee-ki-yay? All right. I got to put some other categories. How many people in that game? I'm okay. I'm all right. I'm okay. I got some McDonald's. How many people? Not doing so hot. Not doing it. Just be frank and honest. Not really. Okay. How many people don't know how they do? That is a category. Last but not least, how many people just don't care at all? I had to ask those 5 categories. You know why? Because some people are. They put on a good smile in front of our face. And they do what they gotta do. But on the inside, I don't know how they dying. It's just like they just can't do it. So here it is. My name is Wendell Fields. Oh yeah, I like that. Oh yeah. And I tell you how I got that name. I got that name by the doctor that birthed me. At that time, let me just put it this way. My mom was going through some complications. And those complications involved eclampsia. So with that, high blood pressure, they faint easily, they incontinent, all those things are going on. And for some reason, the doctor couldn't get my mom to communicate with her because she was not dying. So it ended up that they had to go and talk to my grandmother. Well, in this, he said, who do you want to live? Grandbaby or your daughter? And my grandmother said, in faith, both of them.
Yes.
I don't know what you're going to do, but you're going to help both of them. Yeah. And guess what? Brother man came on now. How about that? And the brother man weighed 2 pounds, 10 ounces. Now, in all of this good stuff, y'all know they already labeled me as not only miracle baby, but one that had disabilities, developmental disabilities. So they already labeled the brother man. So here it is, brother man. He got fat, y'all, because they put him in an incubator. They feed you, and boy, I haven't stopped eating since. But the thing about it is that when I became like 4 years old, 5, I was molested. Molested by both men and by women. And so, that messes with your head and everything, and then, my relatives, because I was small, I got beat up. And not beat up to the point where they beat me up and stripped me of my clothes and kicked me out the front door for punishment. So here it is, you're going through life, I didn't do good in school, right? And it ends up that I was that CEFG student. And so when I finally got to high school, I was already, yeah, and I wanted to do good in school, right? So the brother man ends up plagiarizing out the encyclopedia for a biology report, and well, y'all know, I got an F on it, right? But you say, wait a minute, come here. What's this word?
don't know. How do you say it? I don't know. What does it do? I don't know. So she gave me an L, but I pleaded with her. And I said, can you please let me do this thing over? And guess what she did? And the brother man got an A. All right. Oh, I feel that. And it inspired me to want to go to college. So I went to Tuskegee. All right. Oh, yeah. I was going to study veterinary. Oh, yeah. But then my sister impressed me. So she did psychobiology. So brother man switched to psychology, right? But all I can tell you is this, and feel me on this, okay? Y'all know what I was boy, y'all know I got kicked out of Tuskegee. Because I was partying and drinking. So all of this is due because of past stuff that's going on. I didn't know how to deal with it. You know, when you go to college, this pressure is on you and expectancy and all that good stuff, right? I couldn't handle that, ladies and gentlemen. And it ended up, I got kicked out of there. So I went to all Christian University. I'm still right there. Okay. And I went to Oral Roberts University and was doing great, doing spectacular, but I couldn't recover from an operation that I had, and it sent me home. So failure, and this brother man felt ashamed. Parents coughed up this money, look at, all of that. So you know what? Brother man ended up putting on a mask. The mask was, hey, how you doing? My name is Wendell Fields. I'm just out of college, I hadn't heard of you, but you don't know that. And I started working for the state of Georgia in a mental health and substance use disorder place. Did that for 31 years, and now I retired from that about 2 years ago. But also, I got married, y'all. To the 80s, I said to the high school sweetheart. Oh yeah. So I wasn't no longer a bachelor. 23 and all of that. You know what? Feeling good, right? And then, y'all, I became a licensed and ordained minister. What you say? Oh yeah, just climbing up the good old ladder, and everything good, right? But y'all know what goes up. Let's come down. So I got written up on that job so many times. When it came to that marriage, after 13 years, I got a divorce with a 3-year-old child. Last but not least, when it came to the good old ministry, I became the executive pastor. And in that, you all, the senior pastor got in some trouble. And it busted up the whole church. Well, brother man, trying to hang in there, but it's all a mask, you all. So when I was asking how many people are doing great, spectacular, just give me, and everybody was clapping and all that, and I was like, some of them in here, I ain't doing something. So in 2008, I tried to take my life with some suicide because of all these and arrears. Okay. And arrears, meaning bad child support. And it broke my back. And I said, I don't want to be here no more. I'm tired of the hurt, the pain, the misery, all these things that is I can't take it no more. And in that, As I'm driving my car, waiting to get hit by a good old train. My higher power says, your son. And I'm like, yeah, my son. Still driving. Your son. That's what I'm doing this for. I let go of that story. I proceeded to close my eyes because I was going to get too much. How about this though?
Your father. I said,
It ends up that I didn't see a doggone pothole. A pothole. I'm driving, and a pothole appears. I don't know. And it ends up that the brother man opens up his eyes and sees that the steering wheel turns way on. And it ends up that go off to some boo and crying, oh, I need help. I need help now, right? And I decided to go out and try to go get them. So they put me on medications, psychotropic medications. They're psych meds, I put it that way. And you know, those meds made me feel sort of loopy. So y'all know I got scared, right? And I said, you ain't gonna do that. Oh, no. So I left that one. There's some talk here. So, what you want to talk about? Tell me what it is. Can you help me? Can I help you? You know, all of that, right? I was like, I ain't getting no guidance. I ain't getting no meaning or purpose with this thing. I think I'll see that. And from 2008 all the way to 2018, I didn't do anything. I was really trying to make it happen, you know, but I was slowly going down that downward spiral of depression, agony, and thought about taking my life. But when it came to that therapy piece, this is what it felt like. Y'all remember Eddie Murphy in Coming to America? Yeah. Y'all remember that he pulls the young lady aside. It's a quote unquote arranged marriage. And he pulls her aside. He says, hey, talk to me. So what's your favorite color? And she says, what? Whatever you want. That's what therapy was. Whatever you like type of thing. And it ends up, you all, that, like I said, from 2008 all the way to 2018, it was hard. And they say it takes 10 to 11 years for a person to acknowledge that they might have a mental health condition. From 10 to 11 years, and then they'll get the help after. Well, my help came in the form of what I'm doing right now. I'm talking to people about this thing. I'm trying to help people understand the mindset and all of that. Because this guy, who I met by the name of Kevin Hines, was the gentleman that jumped off the Golden State Bridge and was one of 3 at that time who survived. And he talked about the recovery he had to go through. And mind, spirit, all of that, you know. And I'm sitting there because I've never seen a man talk about mental health. And it ends up that he just spills the tea. I mean, he's putting it all out there, right? Guess what? That man is speaking to me. I started boo-hooing and crying while he was presented and everything, because I felt this guy. I knew what he was in my boat. He was rowing with me. And it ends up, you all, that when you go talk to him, I said, man, you said my life. You say, what you talking about? What you mean? And as I got ready to tell him, other people started coming up. Oh, you did a great job. He said, when do we? Because I told my name. I said, get me. Okay, they ready to go now. But this is a for real story. I'm not making this up. And it ends up in all that I thought that I would never ever see him again. I thought I would never ever see this person in my life. I thought the guy comes to my job. Behavioral health is a crisis intervention service for mental health, substance use, and developmental disabilities. And in that, he starts talking about how this service helps people, right? He looks at me and he says, I know you. I say, I know you too. And he says, you told me I saved your life, but you never told me how. And I got ready to tell that joker how this guy's doing a documentary, a film, you all, about how to overcome suicide, all this stuff. And he tells him, stop. I want you to be in this film with me. Do you not know that that film is called Suicide, the Brooklyn? And it's worldwide known. And it's got worldwide awards too. So in that, you all, with lived experience and people sharing, letting you know, y'all need that. Tell us, I know some of you all not even, y'all don't have a mental health condition. I got you. I got you. But for those that do, I'm right here with you. I don't want you to feel alone or afraid to stand up for yourself. Get the help that you deserve and need. And know that it's out there for you. And believe it or not, it's free. And in that, y'all, they allowed this brother man to become, I say become a board of director for the #1 grassroots organization called NUN, the National Alliance on Mental Illness. And I'm on board of directors. And in that, you all, I represent Georgia to the national, not just Georgia, I'm on that board, but to the national. And you all got 2 best-selling books about men and mental health. The other one is about leadership. Okay. And so in that, now, you know, remember I was telling you about that 31-year career with behavioral health. I got 17 years and I was part-time. And I was doing the mobile crisis team. So we would go out and we would do face-to-face assessments with individuals to see how we can help them with that mental health, substance use, or developmental disabilities, autism, all that good stuff, okay? And you all, I did well at that. And guess what? Brother Man is now the community liaison representing the call center. Because we have 2 services. One is the call center, the other one is the mobile crisis, right? So in this, how many people have heard of 988? Raise your hand. All right. That's half the battle right there. All right, so 988, it's a nationwide number for mental health and substance use, okay? So let's say you're in New York and you decide to come down and visit us here in Georgia. Let's say you got that New York number, right? You call 988. You need to tell them, hey, I know that this is a New York number, but I'm in Georgia, so that they can direct your call to the right people here in Georgia, okay? And in that, we have services for It's a call center and remote projects. And this call center is called, hey, tell them what's going on. They're going to connect you with resources and supports, and they might be someone to talk to, all that good stuff, all right? And if you say, hey, I need someone to come out and check on Tilly, Uncle Tulu, and all, they'll do that at any time. 3 o'clock in the morning, 9 at night, 12 noon. They're right there for you, okay? The service is there so that, one, we understand that doctor's offices and things and places of business closed. So we want you to know that that 24/7, 365 day crisis intervention service is there for you. And guess how much it costs? $19.99 for 4 installments, and it's totally free. It's totally free. So 988. And if you want to just get technical, you can dial 1-800-715-4225 number if you want to do that. And that'll be a direct line to the okay? So in all of that.
No, and one of you is certified peer specialist.
Sir.
And Logic just talked about that he was a forensics peer specialist. What is the difference between your certification as a peer specialist and what Logic does?
Well, Logic is mainly for those individuals that might have a criminal background. I, on the other hand, is one that one with mental health and substance use, because I got both. I got one in mental health and substance use, and they're sort of the same, but totally different. And so all my help, all my whole hand holding and giving that person, helping that person, it will depend on what they have, okay? But yet, I just recently gotten my certification in being a certified addiction and drug counselor from the state of Georgia. So that helps out with all the rest of it. So depending on what I have to do that I'm hired for, that's the route that I go. Does that make sense? So if they just need me as a CPS, then I put on the hat for CPS, helping the individual through their recovery journey and teaching and educating and all of that. Okay? So that makes sense? Yeah. Yes, ma'am. I don't know. No.
When your department do wellness checks, to say I feel a family member, I do out with the norm.
Yes, you can do that, but more than likely they're going to ask for some specifics, what's going on. And so then they'll say, yes, we'll send out a mobile team to go out there and do it face to face. But if it's like a safety check, they might send 911. But once again, with us, you got to give us the information about what's going on with the individual so we can send appropriate help. So, did they answer your question? Okay. Anybody else?
What was the film Suicide?
The Ripple Effect.
Ripple Effect.
With Kevin Hines. Like Hines ketchup,
Oh, no, that's
but Kevin Hines.
all right.
Just one thing, and we're going to talk about suicide in one of our sessions, but I'm wondering if you all know the group that has the highest increase of suicide right now in the country.
You. Yes.
Particularly what? African American youth. What's happening? What's happening with our youth? And now we're a church, and I was in a meeting just a couple nights ago, and one of the individuals had a relative who had committed suicide, and he was informed that it was a spirit, that it was a spirit that caused his relative to commit suicide. What would you say about that? Because you know, in the church, we know what? That is We use the scripture that our battle is not against flesh and blood, but against what? Spirituality and the power of high places. Do you think that you were possessed by spirit when you were going through that?
No.
Okay.
Can I share?
Please.
All right. So for me, what I do to help me is that I go get an annual checkup every year. And it's the reason why I'm saying this. Because some people say that's a spirit. Okay. Is it a spirit of high blood pressure? Is there a spirit of sugar diabetes? I'm asking. But it's a medical condition, right? So for me, how about I find out that my testosterone is low. I found out that I have sleep apnea, which means when I fall asleep, I stop breathing. And that means that oxygen is not getting to the brain or to the body. Okay? We get also, I found out, how many people have ever heard of serotonin? What's serotonin do, ma'am? Raise your hand.
It regulates basically your emotions. If you don't have enough of it, you will be depressed. And some people have a lack of it natural. Their body doesn't produce enough. So they need medication that brings on the serotonin so that you can function.
Oh, do you not know that because I have anxiety, it gets burned up so quick? And therefore, it affects my mental health. So sugar diabetes affects your mental health. If the sugar is too high, if it's too low, you out. Okay. So is it a spirit? When you talk about it that way. Okay. So you might need to do a good comprehensive thing with that to find out, hey, is there any medical issues you're experiencing at this time? It's important that you know about what's going on the inside of your body. So let's testosterone low, serotonin levels are low, sleep apnea is going on.
So you're tired,
yeah. Because when you don't rest, you become a monster. And in that, I can become irritable, lights hit on my nerves, excuse me, sir. Why leave me alone type of thing. And it's because of that medical issue that's going on. So please reconsider about that. Okay? And stop stigmatizing me. I'm a man.
What does that mean when you say stigmatizing you?
You bipolar, ain't you? They bipolar, yeah, you. Yeah. You saw she looked at me. She looked me up and down like, I don't know who you're talking to. Stigmatization. When you say that person is the diagnosis. Like, you know what it does? It causes me to back up. It causes me to isolate. It causes me to say, I don't want to be a part of what you want. Because if you stigmatize me, you don't see me as a person. And this is the thing, you all. What I haven't told you is this. My mom was a nurse practitioner. That means she was right underneath the qualities of being a doctor. She said this, she said, Wendell, do not allow your diagnosis to define you or say who you are. My mom had bipolar disorder. And she went all the way up to being a nurse practitioner, even though she was diagnosed. And she helped veterans who had post-traumatic syndrome. She was able to prescribe medication. She was able to. So why are you trying to put me in your label and your box? After I share with you that I have depression, that I have anxiety, and that also I used to drink alcohol. But y'all wouldn't believe that if I wouldn't have told my story. Y'all would just think that I would be a normal old, happy, all of that. And as she said, it matters. Yes, ma'am.
And I'm sure we'll cover it, but I understand that childhood trauma
ACEs.
can,
Yeah, they're ACEs.
can slow down the development of the brain because of what has happened to a child. So sometimes we think somebody is somewhere, not understanding that some trauma has really slowed
Developing.
Yes.
At 4 years old, do you think I could really understand what was going on? The front of my head hadn't even developed good. Yeah. I saw your hand. I'm sorry. I saw your hand.
Oh, I would just going to say, the speaker says, I wish above all that you prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers. Yeah. So people understand that health is so important, because he's not saying that we always want to say like, okay, we want to put our soul first. We were created with a living soul. We want to put that first. But it's the same thing. God is not saying that prospering and health are not good things. But he's saying that he wants your salvation to be, you be steadfast and righteous and holy like he is, as your soul prospers. But at the same time, that is going on. If you are doing what God has called you to do, then you will prosper and be in good health. But he gives you methodologies and technologies and science and doctors and all that other stuff. And people like you, experts just like yourself, to how to teach us how to prosper. He uses people to do that. And so we minimize it and I do believe that sometimes the devil does attack people's minds and spirit. I'm not against that. But we can't just say it's point blank the devil. We can pray for that. But at the same time, we need to take action and make sure there's nothing else wrong too.
Might I say this? There are times when there are physical ailments that causes some problems. This lady who grew up in Jamaica did not know why she was depressed. She had never heard of it. And as you said, the stigma is that when you talk about mental illness, people don't understand. All that means is the brain is sick. Now, the function of the whole body comes to this up here. So when that's sick, it affects everything. And so she didn't know that she was depressed until she came to America and she became an adult and went to the doctor and found out that her hormone, she had a hormone problem. And it was secreting something inside of her that made her feel down all the time. See, what we don't understand is we don't know physically what is wrong with anybody. And so there are some illnesses that are prompted by various kinds of sicknesses or I should say body functions or chemical unbalancing that causes some of those things. And so therefore people don't understand themselves when those things happen. So children act out, adults act out, people act out because they don't understand what's going on. So when those things are triggered, when they're triggered in the wrong direction, that's what they do, because that's all they know to do. And so that's why we're getting an education in how to lead people to a good health. I'll tell the person in a minute, if you need a pill, go get one. Because sometimes you need to slow down a process or you need to speed up a process. And that's why it's important for us to know how to get people help who needs help.
Just to go along with the class. When it comes to a mental health thing, either the brain is making too much or something, or enough. And you need to know the difference.
how good God is? Won't God provide?
Amen.
So, in the midst of having difficulty, it was an example. One of the fundamental premises of psychology is that it's not the situation, but it's how we respond to it. Okay? And we also know that in our response, that we have thoughts, and our thoughts trigger feelings, emotions, and our emotions trigger what? Behavior. How did you see me responding with the situation with my computer? That's me now. 10 years ago, you would have saw the crazy Charlene. Okay, I already said that crazy is not a scientific meaning, but I'll give a meaning to crazy. Because I would have been thinking so many negative thoughts. They're gonna think that I'm a horrible presenter. They're gonna think that I don't have it together. They're gonna think, all these negative things would have been circulating in my mind. And then before you know it, I would have worked myself up into a frenzy. I would have been angry. I would have been upset. I would have been yelling at Pastor Barbara and having to schedule appointments to apologize. But it's an example. But also, I've learned how to manage my anxiety. I'm diagnosed with anxiety. I've learned how to manage my depression. I'm diagnosed with major depressive disorder. It runs in my family. Yeah. How many of you chose your parents? I'm not talking to individuals who and we don't get to choose the genes. Right. This stuff is real. So you had 3 people who were vulnerable today. You heard Logic say that he had, I don't remember the diagnosis, but he said a diagnosis. You had Wendell who talked about depression and anxiety. You had me who talked about depression and anxiety. Logic's position is what? He's the state director. Wendell is the community liaison for the response that handles 988 for the state of Georgia. I'm the executive director of a nonprofit, the executive director of a for-profit, and I'm starting a new business. It's just like Wendell said, if we didn't tell you we had a diagnosis, you wouldn't know it, right? So that can help to erode stigma. I'm gonna share with you some videos of some people that we think about who are successful. Are you guys familiar with CNN and what's yes, Anderson Cooper? He's doing an episode around mental illness. One of the individuals, and I'll show you that later, one of the individuals that he had on the show is Whoopi Goldberg. You guys might say, well, that's not good, Whoopi's crazy. But Whoopi talks about her mom and the experience that she had. Are there speakers available here? I don't want to try anything new. I'm not touching anything. Okay. But Whoopi talks about the experience as a little girl when she came home and she saw her mom in a state that she didn't recognize. And then she said that her mom proceeded to go into the kitchen and turn on the oven, just turn the gas on. And she put her head in the oven. And what we said, as a little girl, she had to transform in that moment into an adult to save her mom. She had to figure out what was going on to give her mom some help. It's real, guys. It happens. Are you all familiar with, and Anderson Cooper, he shared about, you saw that? His grief.
Yeah.
You saw that? And when Whoopi was talking about her mom and the possibility of losing her mom, Anderson Cooper began to cry. because it triggered in him the memory of losing his father. And he had an episode where he had his therapist on the show. And he asked his therapist, how long am I going to have to deal with this? How long am I going to have to carry this burden of when anybody mentions my father that I cry? He was sharing insight into depression. And if you guys have seen Anderson Cooper, he's an amazing journalist. Whoopi has been there on The View for years. Anybody familiar with from Michelle Williams from Destiny's Child?
Yeah.
Okay. Michelle said that when they signed the first $1 million contract, she was depressed. And people couldn't understand it. She also shared that at 8 years old, she had her first suicide attempt. At 8 years old. And she grew up in a Christian household. I'm a psychotherapist in private practice, and I would say 99% of my clients are Christians. And I can remember the first time I shared with a friend that I had been diagnosed with major depressive disorder. She asked me, Dawn, where's your faith? Where's your faith? And believe it or not, the next week it seems like she had had a conversation with my pastor because he started preaching that if we have enough faith, then we just won't become depressed.
No,
okay.
Amen.
Yeah. Okay. So what about that, guys? What about that? Is there somewhere in the scripture that says, if you have enough faith, you won't experience a depressive episode? And I'm not here to change anybody's theology. That's not our intent. But because we are, this is a faith-based mental health program. So we're going to talk about what? Issues of faith, issues of scripture. And it's okay. And if you don't agree with something up here, that is absolutely fine, because we're going to engage in dialogue. So how many of you believe, and it's okay, that if you have enough faith, you shouldn't be depressed? That if you have enough faith, you should never have a panic attack?
Don't be scared now. Don't be scared now.
Can anybody think of any characters in the Bible who dealt with issues of faith? Jacob? Somebody, did you say Jacob? Who said it? Tell us about Jacob. What kind of issues did Jacob have? Okay, he experienced some fear. Okay.
I'll give you something else. Job 50 be strong. But Job 50, he and his wife said to cross God and die. So Job 50 is strong.
Okay. But what did Job say? Somebody have the Bible. Job said what? I cursed the day that I was born. We talk about Job, but you read chapters and chapters of what? Job being so depressed that he said, why didn't my mother's Eve just prevent me from coming out? And that's depression. And you talked about Job's wife, what she said. But what did Job say to God?
Nicola was born.
But what did he also say? He said that. But before he said that, he said, God, you planned this. Yeah, you knew, you planned to do this to me. And to be real, I have Christians in my office who have been through so much pain. they feel as if God has deserted them. Because as Christians, I think we do a really great job of telling one side of the story. We get it really good when the part where Jesus said, I came so that you could have life and have it more abundantly. And when we talk about praying and things are going to work out, I think we do an excellent job with that. But Jesus also said, as I mentioned before, that in this world, you will have trials and tribulations. So one of the things that I hear the most from my clients was, I never expected this to happen to me. I did everything that I heard pastors say to do. But nobody told me that at the age of 40 that I would be dealing with being a single mom because my 42-year-old husband, my sweetheart since I was 16 years old, died from cancer. Where was God when I prayed? Where was God when I asked him to save my husband's life? And now I'm struggling, trying to raise these kids. That's what I hear. Nobody told me that when this RSV virus was going around, that my 2-year-old son would get it, and that I would be carrying his lifeless body, screaming to the top of my voice, and asking any medical person to help me. Pastor didn't tell me about that. Pastor told me to pray. I'm not talking about Pastor Barbara. And I'm praying. And I'm carrying this lifeless body of my 2-year-old son into this ER. You didn't prepare me for that. You didn't let me know that one day that I could come home. Yeah, I heard the data. Yeah, I heard all about it. But you didn't tell me it was going to happen to me, that I would come home and see my son hanging from the ceiling. You didn't prepare me for that. So now I'm wrestling in my mind with my theology. Is there something wrong with me? Is there something wrong with God? Does he love me anymore? Did he forsake me?
And that's why, my sister, the examples of this is in the Bible. The reason why God chronicled all of these realities and he placed them in the Word. You see, what we don't understand is how did various stories get in the Bible? How did God choose this one over some that would be just glorious? Why did he allow this to happen? Why did he put Cain killing his brother Abel in the Bible? I mean, he's standing with his lifeless body, and why did that make the Bible? It seems that that's a book, should be of glamour, should be of God coming through, and yet we're dealing with the human. See, and that's what we don't, why we read the Word. We're trying to get courage from people who've been through similar situations that we have. Because we all go through something. That's not a book of people not going through something. Everybody at the book went through something. Yes. But they were overcomers. Yes. And I might say about the Garden of Gethsemane, what greater picture of somebody being hurt? Yes. When Jesus asked his disciples, I need you boys to hang with me. I'm at my lowest here. I'm begging you, hang with me, because I can't make it. He goes in and starts praying, and look what he does. He's begging his father, please come up with another plan, because I'm willing to get out of here. This here is too much for me to handle. So if a dilemma comes to all of us, God knows what we as humans go. That's why Jesus came. He couldn't be a high priest and talk from the depth of his soul to his Father unless he knows from the depth of our soul of what it feels like to go through pain. God knows it by theory, Jesus took it by reality. So that's why he's at the center in the throne. He's handling our case because he knows. And the Holy Spirit, he says, when he prays for us, prays with groaning utterance. In other words, he prays with the same pain we have before the throne of God. So it's a cry. When it gets up there, it's a crisis. And God says, I'll never leave you nor forsake you. I will be there. I may not prevent it, but I will be there with you in it.
Yes, yes. That's powerful. And Pastor is right. Because in each one of those stories, when they told me about the pain, Don, they told me about when God showed up. The woman that I told you whose husband died, she said at the moment that he transitioned, she heard the voice of God say, I got you.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. The young woman that was carrying that lifeless body into the ER, she said, I heard the voice of God said, I'm with you. This is powerful. And who has this? Who has this story but the church? Because when I go into the therapist's office who has no belief in God, can she really help me?
No, just talking for the people.
When the pain is in the depths of my soul and the pain has to do with my relationship with God and I'm trying to understand how I'm going through, it has to do with what Pastor told me on Sunday morning and the part of the scripture that I'm reading, can she really help me? Can he really help me to get through? So that's why you guys are so important. And this training is so important because we can integrate spirituality. We can integrate the love of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and the power. And we can, and I can say to you, and I've had clients to me, they say to me, Charlene, I heard the voice of God, but please don't hospitalize me.
Yeah.
That's why. Because another therapist might think you have a psychotic episode. But I've heard the voice of God, so I get it. Okay? Do you see why this is so important? Yes.
No, this just we got two ministers
Yes.
or more in the house, they want to talk. This is book Matthew Stafford. And it says Grace for the Afflicted. In that, he talks about Luke, the 2nd chapter and the 52nd verse. And in that, I'll just read a piece of it. It says, the 4 facets of the self are clearly outlined in Luke chapter 2, verse 52, describing development of the young Christ. Luke writes, Jesus helped increasing in wisdom, mental, and physical stature, and in favor with God, spiritual, and many relations. Those 4 areas. So it has to be included with our study.
It does.
All 4?
Yes, absolutely.
There's more in with
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Just sitting here listening to the experiences that have happened and they're all adults. How do you deal with a 13-year-old child when her father died and he was a good father, good husband? How does a 13-year-old, I went through that. I was angry with God for a long time.
Yes.
I was angry. So dealing as a child is so much different than with an adult. Because a lot of times, maybe a child that young has not had that experience or that relationship with God that can bring them through a lot of things. So, for a long time, it was hard. Thank goodness my mother was a Christian, she's going through it. She just lost her husband, so, back then it was like, keep everything home.
Yes.
You didn't go to a psychiatrist or psychologist, or like you said, people said, talk to God, talk to the pastor, But nowadays, things are so different. You can't throw that out, like you said, pray about it. It's because people are going through so much. But how do you deal with a 13-year-old who comes to you and says, I've lost my dad?
Exactly, and especially when we think what the children are resilient.
Mm-hmm.
And I get your story, because there was a 16-year-old and she was a daddy's girl.
That was
That was you.
That was me.
She was a daddy's girl. Daddy loved her so much that he would let her ride. Children today don't know anything about riding the bus to school. You guys remember when there was neighborhoods and we would be happy to get on the bus to go to school? So Daddy would let her ride the bus to school. But if it rained, Daddy came to school to get that little girl. And no matter what that little girl wanted to do, Daddy was there. The little girl can still remember when Pastor Barbara, when she was 2 years old, that when Daddy walked to the door, she used to jump up and down and scream, Daddy's home, Daddy's home. She can remember when Daddy picked her up, okay? She can also remember that anything that she wanted to do, Daddy would do it. If she had said, Daddy, I want to be the president of the United States, he would have said, come on, baby, let's start making the signs. That was But she also remembered when somebody told her one day, Daddy was no longer here. And what she saw was Daddy laying in a casket. She didn't understand it. She didn't understand God, but she knew one thing, she had a fear of death. And she also had a fear of God because everybody was telling her that Daddy had gone to God. And so in her 13 and 16-year-old mind, that begins to me that God uses death to take your loved ones. Yeah. So then God becomes not a God of love, but a God of death. But I'm too scared to talk about that because you told me not to question God. I get your story because that was my story. And one thing, and we're going to talk about grief, but that was one thing that, you remember I talked about Anderson Cooper, and his therapist said something to him, and he was like, how long am I going to do this? How long is this going to shake me to my core that when somebody mentions Daddy, that I cry? And you know what the therapist said? He said something that I did not anticipate. He said that those tears are holy. Wow. Those tears are holy because they reflect the love that you have. Wow. And he said, instead of running away from the tears, embrace them. And a light went on for me in that moment because what it did, it made my theology more real for me. And what he said was, your daddy still lives on in you. He lives, he's not dead. Is that what our theology teaches us? They're not dead. So now I don't have to look at God as a God of death. Can we talk real about this thing? Amen. Can we be real about what we think sometimes? My God is no longer for me a God of death, but my God is a God of life. And when I think of Daddy and I cry, when you think of Daddy and you cry, those tears are holy. Because they reflect what? You see how that brings understanding? But it's our understanding of the spirituality that does that. We have that peace. You know what we need, church? The science. We have to embrace science. Can somebody tell me what they think of physics? Well, what do we know about physics?
Exactly.
Physics has to do with the way God created the universe. We need to understand the laws of physics. right? So when we say, when the Bible says that it's Jesus that holds everything together, we know that science says what? That the earth turns on its axis and gives us the 24-hour day. That it revolves around the sun. Come on, somebody. Can you see it? That's the science that God put into place. When our heart beats and it goes through our arteries, the arteries take it away from our hearts and the veins bring it back. That's the science of what? Medicine. Who did that? God. When Jesus was in the Garden of Gethsemane and he was in such a state of distress that sweat began to mingle from his blood, mingle with his blood and fall from his plate, from his face. What's the name of that, Lauren? Come on now. That's what? Science. When he was talking about the serotonin that's in the human brain, and I'm going to tell you also about norepinephrine and dopamine. It's science. We have to integrate what? Our truths of spirituality with this science. Because the science comes from who? God. Now, there is this theory out there that says that we originated our ancestors, we share common ancestors with what? The monkeys and the apes and that kind of thing. And that's we don't have to accept all of it out there, but look at what aligns with the what? Word of God. And we give spirituality and science. Lauren, what time is it? Do I have time to go through this?
It's 5:20.
What time are we supposed to finish?
We're supposed to break and
okay. Can we take it? Thank you, Charlene. Because people like me and Wendell and Pastor Barbara will just go on, right?
Oh, blame it. Oh, you blame it.
I know.
the break is at 5:45.
Okay. Okay, what time is the break supposed to be?
5:45.
Okay, why don't we just go ahead and take the break now? Let's take 15 minutes. We'll come back. I'll go through these diagnoses and we'll call it a day. How does that sound? Sounds good. Good stuff. Darlene, I'm sorry, Charlotte. How am I going to mispronounce your name? Charlotte, what? Let's see. But I'm in Darlene. How did one proceed with your work?
What's going on, Imani?
Hello, my name is Darlene Sheridan. I'm the Executive Director of the Midway Community Resource Center. I just want to thank you for coming to the Emotional Wellness and Health Seminar. We look forward to the wonderful things that we will learn about others and even ourselves. Sit back, take notes, enjoy, be ready to make a difference in the world. Thank you for coming, and I look forward to taking this journey with you as well.
I see it over there. I see it.
Well, and there's something, there's some, and they go by accident. By accident, they found out what it was something else. About versus 3. I think there's something over there. And I left help. And I've been back home 3 times. So I've actually only been here about maybe 2 years. I think it's, see, I went back, I had never been at all. I went back, I went back yeah, twice a week. Actually, like August. What are you doing here?
What's going on, sir? I saw you working on that cookie. I'm sorry. And you know what? You're persuaded. You're over there eating my cookie right now. Hold on a minute. Give it your best shot. How you doing there, man? Now he got the cookie, but you got the cookie.
I wish I had it. I didn't read the back. See what was reading.
And then we can call it a day. How about that? Sound good? Yeah. Okay. Lauren, can you see if there's anyone outside even? Okay. Okay, we're gonna get started.
And we'll be back here again next week and the following week. It's three sessions from 3 to 7. It's 3 Saturday afternoon. So, tell your friends, and we're also live streaming it. So we want everybody to be aware of this mental health. It's mental health 101, mental health awareness. So let your friends know all about that.
I got a question. If they miss today, they can still come next week?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Oh, okay.
And I have some exciting news next week. You had great presenters today. You're going to have great presenters next week.
Great.
We talked about the youth. Your very own Charlene is going to be presenting that section around you. We're going to have crisis response. You'll get more window. He's going to talk about the specifics. How do you respond in crisis? And just really give more information on the 988. How many of you know Brian Anderson? Oh my, okay. Brian Anderson is a person, and next week we'll also be talking about, we already talked about suicide and addiction, but you're gonna get to hear Brian Anderson's story. So come next week and bring somebody with you. That's how powerful next week's gonna be, okay? So today, what we're gonna finish up with, and I'm gonna share with you symptoms, okay? Now, with mental illness and mental health challenges, there are diagnoses. Can you say that with me?
Diagnosis.
That's the plural of diagnosis. Can you say that? Diagnosis. And individuals are diagnosed with psychological disorders. And there are certain criteria that we use to diagnose a disorder. Let me share with you who could make diagnoses. A psychiatrist. A psychiatrist is a physician, okay? An MD who's gone back to school for more specialized training in brain functioning. In the state of Georgia, a psychiatrist prescribes meds, okay, and can make a diagnosis. A physician who's not a psychiatrist can also make a diagnosis, and prescribe meds. Okay? A psychologist makes diagnoses. A psychologist is a PhD trained individual who's gone back to school at least 4 years beyond undergrad and has to also has a residency, usually about a year. Okay? The majority of individuals who provide therapy, counseling, psychotherapy are master's level individuals like myself, like Charlene. We have a master's degree, which means we have at least about 2 years of education beyond the undergrad. We have to have 3 years of supervision where we're working with a fully licensed therapist. 3 years. We have to take national level exams. So it's a lot of work. We can also make diagnoses. Can nurse practitioners make diagnose? Nurse practitioners, are nurse practitioners PhDs? No. Okay.
Some are.
Okay. So the persons that can make a diagnosis, psychiatrist and physician, they can also prescribe meds. Nurse practitioner. Can nurse practitioners prescribe meds? Yes. Psychologist. In the state of Georgia, a psychologist cannot prescribe meds. Okay? Psychotherapists, master's level individuals can make diagnoses, but we cannot prescribe meds. That's important for you to know. Okay? It's about the science. It's about the science. Now, whether you are a psychiatrist, psychologist, nurse practitioner, psychotherapist, we all use the same criteria to make the diagnosis, to render the diagnosis. There's the Diagnostic Statistical Manual of Psychological Disorders. We all use that. We're all trained on diagnosis. Are you with me? Now, this is certainly not to train you to become any of those things, but it's to make you familiar. So if you hear certain symptoms, you'll know, I might need to talk to this person about seeing a professional. It doesn't mean that I cannot work with the person, but certainly I don't need to be trying to do this by myself. Does that make sense? So we're going to go through some common diagnoses. By no means is this all. This is not even 1% of the diagnoses in the DSM. But it's the common ones that we see. Major depressive disorder. Can I hear you say that?
Major depressive disorder.
Next.
Bipolar disorder.
Next.
Generalized anxiety disorder. Schizophrenia.
So even with generalized anxiety disorder is within a larger category of anxiety disorders. This is just one. Schizophrenia is the symptoms, you will recognize them. Don't be what? Frightened by the science. Say, I will not fear.
I will not fear
the science. I will embrace. The science. Now, the first one, the symptoms that I'm going to go through is Pastor Barbara did that. Okay.
No, this man ain't leaving by myself.
Okay, these are the symptoms of major depressive disorder as they are delineated within the DSM. It's important to know the science, okay? And so, according to the DSM, and these are just some of the symptoms, these are the primary symptoms. The primary symptoms include feeling sad, hopeless, or irritable a lot of the time. Diminished interest. And what that means is simply losing interest in activities that you would normally find enjoyable. Like Tiger Woods, if he just said, I just do not want to play golf anymore, ever. Like if he was at the height of his career. Or a teacher just like, I just do not want to go in the classroom. Just losing interest in those activities that you would normally find enjoyable. Does that make sense? Yes. Showing changes in energy, being tired and sluggish or tense and restless a lot of the time. Changes in energy. Showing changes in eating patterns, eating a lot more or a lot less than usual. Showing changes in sleep patterns, sleeping a lot more or a lot less than normal. Difficulty concentrating or having a hard time paying attention. Feeling worthless, useless, or guilty. Anger, irritability, suicidal thoughts. Okay? And also, according to the DSM, an individual must manifest these symptoms at least consistently for at least 2 weeks. And the DSM also indicates the number of symptoms that the person has to manifest before making a diagnosis. What do you notice about these symptoms?
You don't have to know that.
Everybody has this at some time or another, right?
Such a short time to find the diagnosis when people have been
Except most of the people that I see who come to me in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, I ask them, when was the first time you started feeling this? Was it during childhood? Was it as a young adult? Was it during a teenager? Because you're absolutely right. Even though they're just now seeing, they probably have been dealing with this all in their life. You're right. But the point is, everybody experiences this. What makes this major depressive disorder is when the symptoms are so severe that they begin to interfere with your ability to function in everyday life, okay? So let me tell you what that looks like. You see the criteria? But what it looks like is, when I wake up in the morning, I don't want to get up out of bed, so I don't.
Hello, my name is Darlene Sheridan. I'm the Executive Director of the Midway Community Resource Center. I just want to thank you for coming to the Emotional Wellness and Health Seminar. We look forward to the wonderful things that we will learn about others and even ourselves. Sit back, take notes, enjoy, be ready to make a difference in the world. Thank you for coming, and I look forward to taking this journey with you as well.